expand to cluster headings or expand to the standards themselves. You can show them all for a particular grade level. Or you can click on a domain that spans across grade levels and see all of the standards in that, by grade level, in that domain. And you know, this is a useful tool if you want to analyze progressions across grade levels. Here's just random, I picked on operations and algebraic thinking, and if you look in grades 1 and 2, you'll see there are 2 cluster headings with identical titles, representatives of problems involving addition and subtraction. Teachers who would like to sort of see, well, what's the bump up from grade 1 to grade 2, can just focus on those 2 sets of standards. This particular one has some illustrations loaded, and so you can say, well, what does this standard mean? And load some illustrations, which are just tasks that have been vetted and have published on the site. And so it's a tool for teachers to go and navigate the standards and to see these illustrations of them. And maybe if we have time at the end, I'll show you just a few little examples of those. There's another sort of back end to this site at the moment, which I hope will eventually become more public. So at the moment, this is just open to our team of about 30 or so reviewers. So if you log in, by the way, you can go here and register if you like. Then you get to see our sort of garage or back room, our task bank. So these are tasks that have been submitted to the project but not yet published on the website. So the other aspect to the project is this process of vetting tasks. And what I envision is a site where anybody can go, teachers, mathematicians, anybody who thinks they have a good task, can go and submit it to the project. We'll probably have that public submission capability up around the beginning of January. And then it starts to go through a really fairly rigorous review process. We're training reviewers. We have about 30 at the moment. Some reviewers check the task for mathematical accuracy. Some check it for pedagogical appropriateness. Each task has to go through at least 4 reviews by different people at the moment. So the reviewers will go to look at a task, and they'll have some form that they have to fill in. They might have to, so if they go here and they classify the task, okay, it's not going to load. All right, there we go, okay. Then there's this big long form they have to fill in. You know, is it correct? Does it have some errors? Should we just forget about it? Yeah, the error is fixable. If so, how should we fix it? To what standards is it aligned? To what practice standards is it aligned? Common Core has both content standards and standards for mathematical practice, which is sort of some more mathematical, fine-grained specification of earlier lists of process or proficiency standards that people have come up with. What sort of a task is it? How difficult is it? Does it require student autonomy? Is it scaffolded? So all sorts of other questions that the reviewers have to answer, and then the task gets sort of tagged and cataloged according to those answers. This is a task that's adapted from a Shell Center task. It's quite a nice task. This one happens to have been vetted quite carefully. And eventually, if a task survives this torture test, it's published. Somebody goes and pushes a button endorsing the task, then it automatically appears in that link that I showed next to the standards before. So what's the point of this process? Well, partly the point is quality control. We want this site to have good tasks. But also the point is the development of that cadre of people who can do this work. So we're recruiting people to be reviewers. They're learning and we're learning as we go along about what sorts of things we need to tell people that we're looking for, but they're also learning, they're learning to sort of, in some sense, use their sense of quality in task design. And one of the things that I think bedevils mathematics education is the privacy of talent. That is to say, teachers who are really good teachers and do really good things in the classroom or design really good tasks, that's a sort of talent that they possess in their classroom without many opportunities to sort of publicly share it or develop a shared notion of quality. If you're going to sort of, in some sense, hand over the process of illustrating the standards to a community, you also want that community at the same time to be on a gradient where they're developing a shared sense of high quality. Otherwise, you just get another one of these websites that everybody can go to. I mean, you can find tons of tasks on the web, right? You can go and find all sorts of educational resources. You have no way of really knowing if it's good or not. You have to use your own judgment. You don't have a community judgment to rely on. So, to me, equally important to the sort of simple task of illustrating the standards is the task of developing that cadre of people who will submit, review, a sort of career pathway, if you like, within the project, where people can start out being submitters and then become reviewers and then become endorsers, and then hopefully they'll take over the project and I won't have to do it anymore. Okay, that very briefly is the illustrative mathematics project. Let's just go back, and I'll just take we'll probably only have time for one of these. So I'm going to show you some tasks that are on the site. These are all published tasks. So this is like a really simple task. I'll come back to it in a minute. But I have 3 tasks to show you. This one's really a very straightforward task. One of the things we're about is not sort of disrespecting the importance of simple tasks done well. This is a fairly complex modeling task, again adapted from a shell center task. And then this is one which is intended to be associated with the standards about seeing structure and expressions. But let's just take the first one. So first I'd like you to spend 30 seconds making sure you can do the task and tell me what the answer is. Okay, what is it? What's the answer? Is there a problem with the wording of the task? Nobody wants to tell me what the answer is? $25, okay, thank you. Okay, so what do you think of this task? Any comments on it? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think it could be worded differently? What do you see anything in it beyond a very, very simple task?
What grade is this in?
This is associated with a grade 6 standard on ratios. Sort of one of the sub-parts of that standard is about using percentages of grades. It's grade 6.
11.
It's not meant to be a difficult task for grade 6. It's meant to be an easy task.
I expect grade 6 is too far because it involves percent.
Because of what?
Because it involves percent.
It involves
Percent
percents,
is on
yeah.
the end of it.
That's right. Anything that percent is a new, in the Common Core, percent is a new concept in grade 6, and so, yeah. Yes?
And just the wording there, you could make it more engaging by saying to save $5 on the sale price. What was the original price? Then you've got this personal incentive to find out, what was it originally?
Right, and so the wording is a little bit stilted.
Perhaps.
Maybe. So it was 20% less than the original price. The original price was $5 more than the sale price. You're saying, original price, sale price, original price. This is sort of a more succinct way of saying that. Yes?
That question would not arise in any context, anywhere except this context.
Right. A little bit artificial, although David's suggestion is that you can say it in a way that does arrive. You can say, hey, I went to the store today, and I saved $5 by buying a shirt off the 20% off rack. That's a completely natural context.
Why would you care what the original price was?
Well, you're saying telling your friend, and,
You could make it marginally more relevant.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'd be concerned about the English language learners and how we count with a problem like that. It would seem like they'd have a hard time.
Right. By the way, if you disagree with something somebody says, please feel free to pipe up. I mean, we've had 2 strong positions stated here. Yes. Anybody else?
I like the name Selena. I like the name Selena.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, Mecca.
Any other comments on this?
Well, I was wondering about the 20% of what?
It's maybe not specific enough.
Well, I think it's clear enough, but I did wonder about it.
But there's a judgment call there, right? I mean, you might say, well, I need to actually say 20% of what, but then that's going to make that sentence longer. That's going to make you even unhappier. So there's a sort of a the more the more you specify the language, then the harder it is to sort of have this somehow feel like it's rolling out of a context that might engage the student.
Yes.
In terms of the language, if you walked into a store, you wouldn't see 20% less than, you would see 20% off. So what do you
20%
think
off.
about asking this question, Bishop, was 20% off the original price?
Right, right.
Is that mathematically imprecise now?
It's a good question. I mean, if you rewrite this as a task which has a much more natural feel to it, some people might, it might not actually be clear enough for some people if they don't necessarily have experience with the context you're referring to. Okay, so here's what I want to point out.